Good morning. Welcome, members of the Women's Collective. I am thrilled to have three other members with me today, and we're going to do a quick recording to share with you Hispanic Heritage Month. So we have Shannon, and we have Lupine, and we have Elba, and we just want to spend a few minutes to give you some cool things that we thought you'd like to know about celebrating Hispanic heritage. Many of you may not know, but it was established as a week-long celebration actually in 1968 to recognize the contributions made in the United States by our Hispanic and Latin community. And actually in 1988, it was actually changed to Hispanic Heritage Month. So there's a month-long celebration going on between September 15th and October 15th every year. And this year, the theme is Be Proud of Your Past and Embrace Your Future. So we want to ask Elba and Lupine to tell us something about themselves that they're proud of about the past and about their heritage.
Okay, so hey, I'll just kick it off. I'm Elba Pareja Gallagher, also Pareja Gallagher. First, I want to say thank you to Allison and Shannon because, you know, they're demonstrating what it means to be inclusive. They arranged this meeting and they've done all the research. They sent us this cool sheet with some tips. So I just want to say thank you, right, for modeling what inclusive means. And Lupine, it's so lovely to meet you. So I was born outside of the country. Hey, I'm going to take off my jacket because it's green and I have a green screen. That wasn't too smart. So I was born in Venezuela, in Caracas, which is the capital. But I was born to Colombian parents. And so technically I'm full-blooded Colombian. They got married, moved to Caracas and had me, and then we moved to Queens, New York. So my past, if we're talking about something about the past, I love that my parents were immigrants and worked their butts off when they came to this country. My dad had 3 jobs. Imagine you come somewhere and you don't speak the language, you know no one. Oh, he did have his brother had come here a couple of years earlier. He came in at a time when dental technicians were in short supply in America, and that's what he did since he was 13 years old. And so I'm so proud that he brought us to this country, that we made it. I got to go to a private school. Anyway, it's just amazing. So I'm proud of my parents who did this and brought me the success that I have.
That is awesome. I think I'm gonna take the same path, and I think that's something big in Hispanic families. So everyone, hi, my name is Lupine. Thank you. I second that. Thank you, Allison and Shannon, for putting this together. I'm originally from Argentina, but the main difference is that I moved here probably 6 years ago. I think 6 years ago, I moved to the US. So I grew up in Argentina, lived a little bit in Chile, in Mexico, and then moved to the US, where I also lived in New York, California, and now Atlanta. But something I'm proud of my past is also my family. I think that's a big thing in the Hispanic heritage, the fight, the willingness to fight for your family and to move forward on life. My parents were also not in a great economical position when I was when they met. My dad he didn't have a dad. He worked since he finished school to help his family and to help his mom, and he always had to provide for his mom, and then he worked his ass through university, being the first one with a university degree in his family, in our family. And then he took us out of there and he gave me all the possibilities. I also was able to go to a private school, which opened me a lot of doors. And I also was able to go to university without needing to work during that time, which makes a huge difference. And I think I have a lot of privilege because of that. So I think I agree with Elba. I think having hardworking parents is something to be proud of. And I know that happens everywhere, but I feel that it's part of, also we are immigrants in Argentina. My family comes from Spain, most of it, but also from Italy and France. So my family comes from a series of immigrants and a lot of hard working to come from people that was running away from the war, and then ended up raising families and getting to a great spot where we are today. And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I love learning about your background, and I know the other members of the Women's Collective are going to love that too. All right, so Shannon is going to share with us some of the key items that if you have friends that are of Latin descent or Hispanic descent, maybe you don't know exactly what Hispanic means or Latino means. So Shannon's going to share some key things about the differences between these.
As a human, and then also at work, I mean, I hear this question all the time. I don't know, am I going to step in it? I'm going to say the wrong thing. What does Hispanic mean versus Latino, what is Latinx? And my first response is, come on, Google it, right? Just make the effort, right?
Right.
Build relationships, talk to people. I mean, this is what it's all about, is being a human and making connections and building relationships. And then making some effort to, to do your best. And be respectful and thoughtful, as we go about our lives and our work. But I mean, I fully agree. It's often just something that we're unaware of or uneducated on, unless you make the effort. And when you do make the effort, it's quite a discovery, right? And even understanding that, for example, Hispanic is someone who is from a country of Spanish-speaking country or territory, right? So it's that's about the language, where Latino, Latina, Latinx would have to do with the geography. So Latin American descent. There's some overlap. I have a cool diagram from Ketchum that's interesting, where you kind of see where there's intersections. But for example, Brazil, because they speak Portuguese, would not be considered
Hispanic,
right?
but they would be Latino.
But they would be Latino, and
but maybe not, because a lot of people, Shannon, I want to call this out, right? We're all individuals, and just like how we say what pronoun do you want to use?
That's right.
You know how we're asking that now? It's
Yep.
because every individual may not want to identify a certain way. So
That's exactly right.
I've met people that maybe according to some definition of some bureaucrat that invented these descriptions, but they don't want to be that. So we respect what people want,
Right.
And another little trick I'll tell you is, I got confused too. I'll tell you, I didn't know the difference of all that either, right? Until I read about it. But my trick is that when you see the word Hispanic, you see the word Spanish.
Spanish is in it, basically.
In the word.
Yeah.
And so that's my trick. So Hispanic has to do with they speak Spanish.
That's right.
And then the Latino has to do with, I think of Latin America and the map. And so it's geographic that, you're from Latin America, Latino.
That's right. That's right. It does make it easier, the little tricks.
The one thing I did read is that, you don't call somebody from a Spanish speaking country Spanish, because people from Spain, so like Lupin's husband Borja is Spanish because he grew up, his parents are Spanish. So you have to also remember that because Spain is in Europe, but it's a Hispanic country because it falls in the Spanish speaking. So,
and there's also, to make it more complex.
Let's do that. Let's make it more complex.
If you think about it, like France, Italy, and French, Italian, and all those languages are all come from the Latin, So that's when everything gets more complicated. It's like, wait, so French can be considered Latin or not? So it gets confusing with Latin, Latino, Latinx. So I think I agree with Elba. It's about how you identify yourself and how you define yourself. I encounter a lot of mixed emotions because I like to define myself as a Latina, but also there's like what they call the white passing Latinos. So if I'm not talking, you might not even realize I'm not from here, or I'm not American or not quote unquote white, because most of my like DNA is actually European, because of immigration and whatnot. So it's like, it's so complex. I think it depends on how you identify yourself, how you present yourself. And sometimes I rather include myself in the white side of thing, mostly because I know I don't suffer a lot of things that non-white passing Latinos suffer. And I feel like you do a better contribution by being an ally, that by like kind of making them feel like making people feel like, oh, this is not like problems that people tell like are not so true, because look at her, like that doesn't happen to her, right? I don't know if that makes sense and if it's appropriate for this conversation, but that's a thought.
Yeah, those are great conversations. Here's another great example. I would suggest just ask somebody, right? Hey, I'm really kind of confused, so I don't want you to get offended, but you could ask them, hey, do you consider yourself Latino or Hispanic? And then have a conversation, right? Yeah, I think that's great. Another thing of language, like Lupine has an accent and I don't, right? Somebody for sure, if you look at me, well, yeah, my skin is brown and my hair is black, and you would think I'm some kind of Hispanic descent, but my voice is perfect English, right? And so to me, I blend in a lot more. And to Lupine's point, right? This passing business, right? My life has been much easier than someone like Lupine who has an accent, or my poor parents. Imagine when they first came here in 1969 and their accent is so thick, and I have witnessed them be so discriminated against and disrespected just because of their heavy, thick accent, right? And so I've been protected from that. But anyway, okay. Thanks, Shannon. What else you got?
Now we see the social media has given us all a window, right, into that behavior that we know is going on, and now we see it, right on our phones, and it's alarming.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was really encouraged this year. This is the first time I've really seen a lot around Hispanic heritage. I'm seeing it on LinkedIn. I'm seeing Coca-Cola and big corporations that are celebrating. My college has done an amazing job highlighting these awesome members of the community of my alma mater that come from Hispanic countries. And I just love, I don't know that I ever remember us talking about it as much.
I'm curious, why do you think that is?
I think we're just in a time where people are recognizing that diversity is important, and we need to recognize that everyone comes from different places and celebrate the diversity that we have in our country, and not be so focused on, let's celebrate our differences, because our differences are what make the world go round, right? Like, we learn from each other, and that's how we get better, is by working with people that might not be like us.
Excellent. It also could be because number one, with everything that happened with George Floyd and an awakening in America, as Allison is suggesting, right, that people are now more open to learning different things. At the same time, I think we are opening our own eyes in a different way and extending the permission for minority groups to have their voices be heard, right? So I reached out to Allison and we talked about doing something like this. Well, maybe in the past, I wouldn't have done that, like say 2 years ago, because I didn't feel supported in the culture around me, that it was safe to bring up my brownness, but now I think we all are willing to just look beyond just our circles.
And I also believe that corporations and institutions are being held accountable for taking stand on these issues before they could pass by like not saying anything and everything's going to be okay. But we're at a point where if you don't say anything, you are taking stand too. So I think that's because all these movements are coming up and people are pay attention to it. So are you taking stand or not? Kind of
I wonder if there's a bit of an evolution also from the focus on women to now such a more broad understanding and awareness around intersectionality, and where so much effort around women led to really progression of white women. And it's kind of, as companies are starting to track and watch and pay more attention, they're realizing, oh, wow, we thought we were doing some great things, but we've kind of missed. We've also had some big blind spots, right?
Shannon, that's a great point. In fact, yesterday, or Wednesday, September 30th, McKinsey and Company and Lean In came out with the 2020 Women in the Workplace study. And you can definitely see, which is disheartening to me because I follow that thing, that from 2019 to 2020, women of color in two management ranks lost a percentage point in their representation. And I think companies are being more aware and more transparent about the numbers to raise awareness that, gosh, when you dig into the numbers, it turns out that the progress we're making isn't equal for all women, right? So it's good to open our eyes and just look.
And with boards, it's been interesting to watch too, the focus on women, and then, oh wait, let's be sure that we're thinking about Black executives with board seats. But now it seems that there's finally a conversation more in the front and center around the Hispanic and Latinx voice at the table at the board.
That's right. Hey, by the way, you just used a word, Shannon. What's Latinx?
Well, I said Hispanic/Latinx, trying to purposefully be sure that we're thinking about the entire population, right? The diversity of voices.
I know, but this is good, right? What is Latinx? Does anybody know? Kind of, why do we say that?
Oh yeah, good question.
My understanding of Latinx is sort of the gender, how you identify. What you may not be Latino or Latina, but Latinx is non-gender specific. Is my
Yes.
Meant to encompass,
right?
Yeah, meant to encompass all, right?
That's exactly it, right? Because the Spanish language is gendered, right? So things are either male or female, Latino or Latina. But some people back to gender identity, right? They just call me Latinx, right? Maybe it started based on people who wanted to be non-binary, right?
Okay.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes, it is. So you guys learned a little.
I thought it was just lazy to say one word instead of Latino or Latina.
Yeah, so Latinx got its birth from the non-binary.
The Spanish language to try and reduce the gender from words. So usually a word ends with O, like niño, it's boy, and niña is girl. So niña is what like some people are proposing to use to try to find because when you want to talk about a group of children, you will say niños, which ends in no, which is tends to refer to only boys and whatnot. So they are trying to find ways around, and niñex is one, niñas with an E it's another one. So that it's a whole movement around the Spanish language for sure, trying to find
words matter, right? So it's
yes.
And I love Elba's asking the question, right? Like so many people are afraid to ask, or they're afraid, as Shannon stated, they're afraid to say the wrong thing. At the end of the day, especially among the members of the Women's Collective, we want to get to know one another, and we want to ask these questions because these conversations need to happen. No one will be insulted if you ask. They'd rather you ask than not ask, right? So
yeah, that's it, Allison. I mean, because are you afraid to step in it with your close friends? No.
Right.
But, I think where we act from a place of fear is when we're in situations where we don't have relationships. So working on those relationships is important as everything else.
Well, this has been so great. And before I close, I want to do a couple things. First, I want to tell you guys, and for the members of the Women's Collective to hear, that we currently are at 15% membership that is our people of color. So I'm very excited, and we have a lot of prospective members that we're talking to, and we are looking to bring that number up. So we are very focused on making sure that we have a really inclusive group of women leaders who are going to go into the workplace and change the future for those of us that are working now and those coming behind us. I want to give Elba and Lupine a quick minute to tell us, as the Embrace the Future part of the theme for this year, tell us one quick thing that you're going to do to embrace the future, Elba and Lupine.
Go ahead, Lupine. I went first last time.
Okay, so I'm going to share two things. One, in a personal matter, I'm a mom of almost two, one and one about to come out, and we are strong at, for example, speaking Spanish at home, which sounds weird, but I have a lot of people. I know a lot of people, second generation or first generation, that they don't speak their parents' languages, and in Spanish, such a useful language that's like, is a huge, it's not like a lost language that no one speaks. It's like a huge piece of the population. We want to make sure that our kids embrace their Hispanic heritage to not only speak the language, but know how to properly use verbs, know how to properly write it, and like things a little bit beyond that. Also, we are a mixed family, so we try to talk about a little bit of history of both our countries, Spain and Argentina. And then on the other side, on like more the public facing, I think mentoring and sponsoring Hispanic people goes a long way. So especially people that, especially women in my case, I like to sponsor and mentor women, but making sure that what is starting on their career, that they feel that, okay, there's people higher up with my same heritage, and supporting them. And if you don't have a Hispanic heritage, you can still do it and support people and help them grow in their careers. I think, and I say sponsoring mostly because it's not only just like talking to them and giving them advice, but supporting them and being their allies, and I help them grow on their careers beyond whatever race or whatever color or heritage they have.
That's great. Thanks, Lupine. And for me, I'm going to be extremely dedicated to an initiative. As you all know, I work for UPS, and I'm working very closely with the Latino business resource group called Crecer. And we are working closely with HR to create new opportunities and programs that will level the playing field, everything from publishing numbers to creating spotlights on talent. And the thing about the programs are that they're not just good for brown people. They are good for all people, because when you have transparency in talent management, everyone is on a level playing field to compete for new roles, opportunities, mentorship, sponsorship. So I'm super excited. UPS is doing amazing things. We have a woman CEO that I am just over the moon over. It's just amazing. So that's where my focus is, Allison.
Well, thank you guys so much. You all hit on our themes, our pillars. We've talked about education. Lupine talked about mentorship and sponsorship. We've talked about what we can do in the workplace, and all things that members of the Women's Collective are trying to come together and do, and that's what our mission is. And I want to take a quick minute just to say thank you to each of you. Thank you to Elba and Lupine for sharing your heritage and about your culture and your stories. And Shannon, thank you for helping me get this together. And this has been a great conversation. And I want to leave all of the members with 5 action items. If you're a leader in your organization, you need to be creating an inclusive environment. The things you can be doing: take the time to get to know your coworkers, have those conversations, ask the questions about whether they want to, where they come from and how they want to be identified, and whether they're Latina or Latino or Latinx, or whether they are Hispanic or Spanish, whatever that may be. Read and learn. Get online and look it up. If you don't know what something means, get online and Google it. We all can Google and read and learn about the cultures. And engage in a mindful conversation, and listen, hear people, hear what they have to say. Challenge stereotypes and biases in your organization. Elba's done an amazing job with our bias training. I had a lot of positive feedback, Elba, from your bias training, people that watched the recording. If you were watching this and you haven't gone back and looked at the bias recording, it was fantastic. And the last thing is just to be aware of your own privileges. There are a lot of people in our country that don't maybe have the privileges that we've had. And so it's important to recognize that as well. So I thank you all so much, and look forward to seeing you all soon.
So, hey, everybody, I'm going to take a quick picture that we can use on social media. So get up to the camera. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Y'all.